That is real for them. It is something they are facing. That is very authoritarian in my view. And so that's a reality for some people. I guess my question back at you, I know we're short on time here, but my question back at you is where is the limit for the military then? I mean, if you're going to label anything and everything a vaccine, at this point, seems like you could just
Well,
theoretically label anything a vaccine,
I'm
even if
glad,
it doesn't
well,
stop the spread. You could just say, well, but it'll limit your symptoms, maybe. And so
well,
if
it's
that's
not
the
just
case, we're
vaccines,
calling
right?
it a vaccine.
It's not
Right.
just
So
vaccines. The
that's my
military
question.
constrains your life in myriad
Right.
ways.
I mean, that's what's odd about this conversation,
many
because
of
the
which
military
I don't
does
agree
get
with.
This woman who has been lifted up among a certain, shall we say, anti-vax crowd that loves to listen to people like Jimmy Dore, who can talk about every negative thing, basically fearmonger about COVID from the opposite perspective of what mainstream media does. So mainstream media will fearmonger about how dangerous COVID is and how it's going to bring humanity to extinction. Obviously, I'm being hyperbolic there, but that is their fearmongering angle that they use for profit. Jimmy Dore and people like Kim Iverson, they fearmonger from the opposite direction, which is all the conspiracy theories about, and I'm not saying these claims specifically that they have made this, but they're within that circle that, does this kind of fearmongering. So the idea of all these restrictions, 6 feet distance and wearing the mask, it's some kind of dark conspiracy to, get people to be docile and get them used to, just following these kinds of mandates. And then the next step is, they're going to put us in FEMA camps. And again, I'm not saying that Kim has ever said anything like that, or Jimmy Dore. I'm just saying that's the angle. They are more aligned with that form of fear mongering. So if we allow the government to do this, next thing you know, they're going to go and take away all of our rights and all that kind of stuff. It's the same stuff that mainstream media is doing. They've just chosen a different thing to fearmonger about. But here's the critical thing. So this woman, who again is looked at as an idol, she's a real journalist. She has so much stuff to say about COVID that I looked at on the Hill. I saw this in my feed, and I saw it said something about unvaxxed. And her face wasn't in the thumbnail, but I said, I bet you Kim Iverson is going to be the one doing this discussion or leading the discussion. And surely enough, I put on the video, and who is it but Kim Iverson, right? Out of all these people, she's got to be the one who she wants to go in, oh, COVID this, COVID that, vaccine. But here's a detail. So she's got all this stuff to say about the vaccine and COVID, and she's been talking about this for a long time. She does this for a living. This is her job. People want to look at her as a real journalist, and she knows what she's talking about. She's not putting out misinformation like the mainstream media. And the mainstream media does put a lot of misinformation, but certainly she does as well. But she doesn't even know what a vaccine is. So this is a woman that is informing so many people about issues related to their health as far as the virus and also as far as the vaccine. So she makes claims that they can call anything a vaccine now. She essentially in this video essentially says that the V doesn't work. That's essentially what she says. She doesn't directly say it, but essentially that's what she's saying, that it's pointless. Because she talks about how the fact that you can be jabbed and still get the virus, and she wants to harp on, at some point in time, I think mainstream media or certain people in the government were putting out idea that if you get this thing, it's going to stop the spread, and that's the thing, and the virus is spreading because people aren't getting the jab and all that kind of stuff. Like she wants to harp on that, but it is almost July of 2022, right? If you listen to what she's saying, essentially what I can gather from that is, in her brain, based on the lack of research that she's done, She thinks a vaccine is something that stops the spread of a virus. That is her understanding of what a vaccine is, which means that she doesn't even have the work ethic to even take a little bit of time to understand the very basics of the topics that she's talking to a large audience. And I love Brianna. She's really good. She does great work, but she's one of three on this panel. No one actually challenged her claims about the jab. She again essentially claims that it doesn't really do anything, and I don't think Brianna really pushed back on that. She might have said a little something, something, but she didn't really push back on that statement, that highly irresponsible statement for her to be making, and very uninformed statement. And also, what's it, Robbie or whatever, he sat by and let that, just sort of slide through. So, in case you're not already aware, a vaccine is not something that stops the spread of a virus, right? Again, if she'd even taken the minimal amount of time to do some basic research. Again, if you're gonna have a lot of commentary about a type of vaccine and not even know what a vaccine is, like how irresponsible are you as a journalist? I don't do this for a living, right? But I care to be as accurate as possible. I care to make sure that what I'm sharing with people is accurate, even though the impact that I have is small. I have a small audience, and I always will have a small audience because I'm not going to pander to anybody's ideology. So what I'm offering here is not something that has a high demand. People like to hear their beliefs validated. They want to hear right-wing media or left-wing media, right? So I don't have something that has a huge market. So I don't have a lot of impact. So I could be the one to be loose with the lips, because the damage that I can cause would be very small compared to the damage that somebody like Kim Iverson can cause because of the size of the audience. This video has 21,000 views on it. I know she's had multiple videos with hundreds of thousands of views. Millions of people at this point have seen her takes on stuff, right? And this is yet another example of her sloppy journalism. So what is a vaccine? A vaccine is a preparation that is administered as by injection to stimulate the body's immune response against a specific infectious agent or disease. So it is something designed to stimulate the body's immune response. Stimulating the body's immune response has nothing to do with stopping the spread. I don't care what some idiot on MSN might have said or some government idiot might have said. These are the facts. That is not the definition of a vaccine. It's not something to stop the spread. I don't know where the hell Kim Iverson is getting that idea from, right? But this just shows the quality of her work, or lack thereof. Also, stimulating a body's immune response is not making you invincible, right? Your immune response tries to protect you. It tries to fight a virus that is attacking your body, right? And if your body is successful, it can prevent you from future infections as well, because your body has the capacity to remember, right? To retain a memory of this previous infection and what it took to resolve it. So the next time around, rather than having to reinvent the wheel, your body already has, I'm really oversimplifying things, your body already has a recipe that it can utilize right away. I don't mean that literally, to address the attack, right? So imagine someone that doesn't already have the recipe, they haven't been previously infected. Their body's going to take a longer time, potentially, to identify the threat in the first place, and then also to eliminate it. Somebody who has a previous exposure, they have this memory of it, so they can faster recognize it and more effectively and efficiently deal with it. So that could mean never having any symptoms, right? As soon as the threat comes in, your body identifies it, shuts it down before you even know what's going on. Maybe you feel a little tired. Maybe you got a little sniffles and you thought you were getting sick, and then the sniffle just went away and you're like, oh, okay, right? That is what the immune response does. But a vaccine, the beauty of a vaccine is that you are stimulating the immune response in a safe environment, right? So when I finally, after I think almost 2 years, going and got my COVES shot, I did feel a little sort of out of it for a few days, felt weak and tired, but I didn't get a full-on attack like if I was sick, right? So this vaccine was able to stimulate my immune response and create this memory. So if I actually get exposed to the virus, which I have not, my body should recognize it faster and deal with it in a more efficient manner. So I might not have any symptoms, might have minor symptoms. However, the thing about the immune system is the immune system is not perfect, right? So you can get infected by something, so natural immunity, natural immune response, and you can get infected again by the thing, right? Even though you already were infected and you have this memory, right? Because just because you have this memory of it and you had this experience with it, that's not a guarantee that you're going to be able to win. You might get really, really sick the first time, and the second time you might get really, really sick as well. Now, a lot of people that won't be the case, but that's not a guarantee. Same thing goes for a vaccine. Just because you took a vaccine doesn't mean that you are, next time you get it, or if you get an infection, that you're not going to have any symptoms or you're going to have minor symptoms. You could get really, really sick, even though you have a vaccine, right? Because again, all it's doing is triggering your immune system, right? Your immune system is not perfect, right? So just because your immune system has this memory doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to not get sick or not get sick badly. Now, if we want to look at it statistically in terms of what's the percentage of people that have had the vaccine and what the responses have been, that is what you really want to look at. And all the statistics that I've seen indicate that you are much less likely to get really sick if you are jabbed. But again, being jabbed doesn't mean you can't get very sick, and doesn't mean you can't die either. Same goes for all those other vaccines that she thinks. Like, she thinks that all the other vaccines before were real vaccines, and somehow this one, just so happens that the ones that's been so totally politicized, and it's the left and the right, and Trump said this, and all of this, right? Somehow this one, it's none of that. It's none of the political stuff. There's something special about this vaccine that somehow it's different from the others, right? As if other vaccines don't fail as well. So let's look at the efficacy of other vaccines. So as we can see here, 80%, 92%, 90%, 79%, 90%, 90%, 81%, 68%. In comparison, 90% for the COVID vaccine. It looks like they're saying 95 and 94% for Pfizer and Moderna. So Pfizer and Moderna more effective than most of the other traditional vaccines. However, and this is the way that people like Kim Iverson misleads her audience, either intentionally or just because of her sloppy journalism, there's some nuance that is missing in her argument, which just so happens to coincidentally be just the argument that will be very profitable with a certain anti-vax crowd. That being said, so although if you look at it, like if I want to deceive you, and if I want to mislead you like she does, and make you think that there's really no difference between the COVES jab versus these others, I end the video right here. I show you the percentages are close. In fact, it's higher with the COVES, because look at this. This is only 80%, right? This one's only 81%. This is only 68%. These are lower numbers, right? We even have some that are more effective than polio, and that's polio with 3 doses. We got jabs that are 1 and 2 doses. Anyway, so here's the devil is in the details. And again, this is how folks like this mislead you. It's not that she necessarily lies. It's not that MSNBC necessarily lies, or Tim Pool necessarily lies, or Ben Shapiro necessarily lies. It's not necessarily what they say, it's what they don't say. So case in point, what I've said so far is completely factual. I'm showing you the sources. I'm not just talking off of my head like Kim Iverson was. She wasn't showing you any receipts. She's just saying stuff, and people who like her will just believe her. They're not going to confirm what she's saying. I'm showing you the sources. However, there's something that I'm not showing you that puts a big hole in the idea that these vaccines are no different than the current one. And that is how long these vaccines are effective for. And this is how I can effectively, like if I wanted to profit from a anti-vax crowd, this is how I would mislead you. I would keep pointing out how people get jabbed and they're still getting sick anyway. I could probably easily find some high numbers of people that have been jabbed and got really, really sick, many who have died as well. And I could use that to paint a story that says that this thing doesn't really do anything. What's the point? And I do that by, again, selectively reporting on certain details that support that narrative. But when I give you the full context, when I give you the full details, not just the details to lead you in one direction or the other, then it's problematic. How long these vaccines last is a massive separation between these vaccines and the Cove's vaccine. And it opens a huge door for you to put doubt in the minds of people. So some of these vaccines are like 7 years effective, 10 years effective, 20 years effective, lifetime effective. That changes things drastically. You have 2 vaccines. One is 90%. Now, how about this? You have 2 vaccines. One is 80% effective for life. The other one is 100% effective for 6 months. Which one do you think is going to potentially have the higher body count and more quote-unquote breakthrough infections? I mean, that's an easy one to figure out. The 100% effective sounds very, very good on the surface. And initially, that means, initially when you get it, your experience is going to be much better than with the 85% effective one, right? The problem is, within a few months, right, depending on how long it lasts, you can fall from 90% to 80%. So now both vaccines are on the same level. And as time wanes on, the 80% one that doesn't last very long, that lasts for 6 months, it goes to 70% effective, 60% effective, 50% effective. And at some point in time, the level of effectiveness is very, very low. So then next thing you get sick, and you get really sick. Maybe you die, or you just get really, really sick. Somebody dishonest like Kim Iverson will point out, look, this person was jabbed and he was double jabbed, and look, he got sick. It doesn't work. It's pointless. This thing doesn't work. I don't know why they call it a vaccine. It doesn't really work, right? All she's got to do is omit the detail about the context of how it works. It works very effectively, but it's got an expiration date. For some reason, right? So she's the kind of person that would like to talk about conspiracy theories about Big Pharma. Well, there's a conspiracy theory right there. Some reason in this highly political atmosphere, in the current state of corruption in this country, we ended up with this miracle vaccine that somehow just doesn't seem to be very resilient. Doesn't really last very long, especially when you compare it to the other vaccines. Now, it's new technology, so that could explain it. But I find it very interesting, and I've always wondered whether that's by design to increase the profit margin. You can sell more jabs if the jabs don't last very long. Polio jab is not very profitable, right? Give somebody this jab and then they're not coming back for forever, most people, right? So that's the missing detail. Yes, no vaccine is 100%. So even if 90%, 95% effective, some people are going to get sick, some people are going to die, right? But with the coves, you're on the clock. The longer you go from the time that you got jabbed into the future, the less effective that jab is. And I'm sure there isn't a lot of data giving us a lot of specifics about just how long it lasts for obvious reasons, right? This is the United States of corruption, is it not? So, in closing, Kim has no clue what a vaccine is. She thinks a vaccine is something that stops the spread. Stopping the spread is just something that you can benefit from, the stimulation of the immune system. That can be one of the benefits, but that is not what makes it a vaccine. Nowhere in the definition of vaccine did they mention anything about stopping the spread, right? Generally speaking, these vaccines seem to do what you do on your own, but without the risk to yourself of natural immunity or natural immunity situation. Because if you actually get infected by the actual virus, and it's a dangerous one, you can get really, really sick and you can die. There's a high probability of that happening. The vaccine allows you to get the benefit of a post-infection, right? So you've been infected, now you've got some level of immunity. The vaccine allows you to get that benefit without the much higher risk of getting really, really sick and potentially dying, which is what happens if you just get exposed to the virus through natural immunity. Like that's the big benefit of the vaccines, not stopping the spread. That's just a narrative because of misinformation that was put out through mainstream media, and then the anti establishment folks jump on that, and they're still harping on it about how they said it was going to stop the spread and stop it. Yeah, that they did do that, and I called it out, but I'm not still harping on that from 2022, using it erroneously to weasel my way out of an argument where I'm trying to present that basically the jabs don't even do anything. They're not even vaccines. Why do we call them vaccines? If we call this thing a vaccine that's 90% plus effective, then we could just call anything a vaccine. We could call water a vaccine. Oranges, that's a vaccine. Like, what? Anyway. This is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Now Jimmy Dore is never going to have me on his show.